The first thing Commander Lissa Reeves noticed about Aetheris 12 wasn't the view of the blue-white planet below. It was the silence. Stations like this were never truly quiet. Air recyclers hummed, conduits whispered, bulkheads ticked as pressure shifted. But this silence was different. It was the kind that meant people were waiting for something unpleasant to happen. She had felt that silence in briefing rooms before a disciplinary hearing, in corridors outside medical bays, in the moments when truth and bureaucracy collided. This time she was the truth walking in. A junior adjutant met her at the docking tube. His posture was stiff, his eyes fixed somewhere around her collar insignia. "Welcome aboard, Commander. Instructor Vethal asked that you report directly to tactical assessment." "Of course he did," she murmured. The adjutant blinked, unsure if it was sarcasm or protocol. It was both. Tactical assessment occupied the central spine of the station, glass, chrome, and endless forms of caution signs. Vethal waited by the conference table, his carapace polished to regulation shine. He had the weary precision of someone who'd spent 3 decades surviving, by never taking a risk. "Commander Reeves," he said, voice dry and metallic. "Your transfer orders were expedited." "Apparently," she replied, dropping her duffel on a chair. "So what's the emergency?" He tapped a tablet. A holographic file opened between them, lines of red text scrolling like a wound that refused to close. Subject: Human male, designation Marcus Cade. Status: isolated. Classification: dangerous. Lissa raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous, huh?" "Multiple indicators," Vethal said. "Psychological instability, predatory cardiovascular patterns, chemical dependency, and inappropriate facial displays during conflict." Inappropriate. Facial displays? He enlarged the image. A still frame from security footage showed a human, broad-shouldered, tired-eyed, mid-30s, grinning. Lissa studied it for a long moment. "That's a smile, Instructor. To you, perhaps. To the Krolathi witnesses, it was a baring of teeth, a threat gesture. And the chemical dependency? Caffeine." She let out a breath halfway between a laugh and a sigh. "So a guy smiled and wanted coffee, and your system labeled him dangerous?" Vethal's mandibles clicked irritably. "He also incapacitated 6 Krolathi dockhands in under 15 seconds. Alive." "Yes. Then I'd say restraint, not danger." The instructor folded his arms, 4 of them. "Commander, your predecessor requested reassignment after 3 cycles of similar disagreements. The consortium's threat assessment matrix is standardized for 43 species. Humans were added provisionally. Adjustments take time." "Time's fine," Lissa said. "But holding an innocent contractor for 3 days isn't an adjustment. It's malpractice." He stiffened. The decision was collective. "I merely follow protocol." That was the problem with old soldiers. They obeyed systems long after those systems stopped earning it. She turned the hologram, reading the list of incidents. "Predatory cardiovascular activity," she read aloud. "Heart rate increased to 140 during exertion. That's called exercise, not hunting. Our med techs found it alarming." "They would," she said. "Most of them flatline at 1 in 10. Her tone softened. "Instructor, this isn't about blame. It's about calibration. Humans spike when we run, laugh when we're scared, and smile when we want to avoid fights. You've been interpreting our survival mechanisms as aggression." Vethal hesitated. Just a fraction, but she saw it. Doubt creeping in. He gestured to the screen. "Perhaps you should review the footage before forming conclusions." Gladly, he darkened the lights. The holo expanded into a 3-dimensional projection of a bar. Low gravity, mixed species clientele, neon haze. Marcus Cade sat at the counter, nursing a drink and scrolling through a data pad. The timestamp pulsed quietly, 22:47 local. 4 Krolathi dockhands entered, scales flushed violet with intoxication. They circled behind him, postures wide and territorial. The human looked up, smiled, said something unheard, and lifted his drink in greeting. The nearest Krolathi recoiled. Another shoved him. "Note the exposed teeth," Vethal said. That was perceived as... "Watch," Lissa interrupted. Marcus stood, palms open, backing toward the door. His body language was textbook de-escalation. Shoulders down, eyes steady. Weight off the forward foot. The aliens blocked the exit. Shove sent him into a table. Then everything changed. Marcus moved like water poured through cracks. Redirect, elbow, step, control. 6 bodies down before a second drink could spill. He stopped as soon as the last one dropped. No flourish, no rage, just breathing. Then that smile again, shaky, disbelieving. Relief. Vethel froze the playback. Laughter following violence, indicative of instability. Indicative of adrenaline, Lissa corrected. He just survived a lethal confrontation without killing anyone. You'd laugh too, he didn't answer. The hollow flickered out, leaving only the soft hum of the processors. How long has he been in isolation? She asked. 72 hours. And his condition? Stable, cooperative, he requested reading material. What kind? Maintenance manuals, she smiled. So your dangerous predator is bored out of his mind. Vethal's mandibles clicked again, quieter this time. Commander, I must caution, direct contact without psych clearance, save it. I've been teaching tactical assessment for 15 years. If he's truly dangerous, I'll know in 5 minutes. She turned toward the door. Where's Holding Bay 7? Commander, you can escort me or file a report about your superior violating protocol. Either way, I'm talking to him. Silence stretched. Then Vethal sighed, a sound like sand sliding across stone. This way. They walked through the artery corridors of Aetheris 12, past walls marked with atmosphere codes glowing soft blue for oxygen standard. Species of every shape gave them a wide berth. News traveled fast in enclosed ecosystems. A human under isolation meant gossip, and gossip bred fear. Lissa kept her stride even, every motion calculated calm. Beside her, Vethal's claws clicked a measured rhythm. You believe the system is wrong, he said finally. I believe the system was built by people who don't sweat, bleed, or drink coffee. That's not wrong, it's incomplete, he considered that. Incomplete frameworks can be dangerous. So can ignorance, she replied. They reached the reinforced observation window of Holding Bay 7. Inside, Marcus Cade sat cross-legged on the floor, reading a datapad that projected diagrams of air scrubbers. The guards outside looked tense enough to chew through their helmets. Lissa studied him. He looked ordinary. Tired, maybe. The way soldiers looked after too many jobs and too little rest. He doesn't fit your profile, she said quietly. Vethal didn't answer. His multifaceted eyes reflected the human inside. Open the door. Absolutely not. She met his gaze evenly. You want a proper assessment? This is it. Vethal's forelimbs twitched, every instinct fighting duty. If he demonstrates aggression, I'll handle it. After a long pause, he keyed the lock. The door hissed open with unnecessary drama. Lissa stepped inside. Marcus looked up from his datapad, blinking at her uniform. New interrogator or just lost? Neither, she said. Commander Lissa Reeves. I'm here to get you out of this mess, he raised an eyebrow. That's new. Behind the glass, Vethal's shadow lingered. Lissa ignored it. I saw the footage. You handled yourself well. Tell that to the report calling me psychologically unstable. I intend to. She folded her arms. But first I need to understand why the word dangerous is stamped all over your file. Marcus snorted softly. Probably because I smiled. Her lips curved, small, human, disarming. Then let's start by teaching them what that means. Outside, Vethal watched through the glass. Torn between fear and fascination as the two humans, predators, the doctrine whispered, talked like professionals discussing weather. For the first time since the word dangerous had been entered into the file, he began to wonder if they had been afraid of the wrong thing all along. The door sealed behind Commander Lissa Reeves with a hiss that sounded far too final. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and metal. Sterile, efficient, impersonal. The kind of place designed to remind the occupant that they didn't belong. Marcus Cade sat on the bench, one ankle crossed over his knee, posture loose but watchful. His eyes tracked her like someone used to reading intent through body language, not uniforms. The datapad lay face down beside him, a makeshift bookmark in a life that had been put on hold. So, he said, are you here to diagnose me or release me? Neither yet, Reeves replied. I'm here to figure out why this station labeled you a hazard. Let me save you some paperwork, he said. I smiled at the wrong people, drank the wrong drink, and didn't die when they tried to break my ribs. That about covers it, she didn't smile back. You also put 6 Kralathi in the infirmary. Temporary injuries, he said evenly. They'll be back at work before my next meal, assuming I ever get one. There was no defensiveness in his tone, only fatigue wrapped in humor. Reeves had seen that kind of composure before, in combat veterans who'd learned that outrage changed nothing. Did they give you coffee? She asked. He blinked. They gave me nutrient paste. Gray. Probably invented by someone who hates joy. She sat on the bench opposite him, folding her hands. You're under omnivorous standard rations. That means your food's technically balanced but tastes like punishment. Explains the aftertaste, he muttered. I requested coffee 3 times. They logged it as chemical dependency, didn't they? Reeves gave a small nod. You've read your file. They let me see the summary. My favorite part is predatory cardiovascular irregularities. That was after they made me jog in a cell the size of a closet. Heart rate spiked to 142. Pretty much. Then I cooled down and they decided I'd just reset my predatory state. She leaned forward, elbows on knees. That's normal human physiology. Our heart rate range is wider than most known species. They're mistaking capacity for aggression. Marcus exhaled slowly. That's what happens when the galaxy writes your biology into a threat manual. Silence stretched. Behind the observation glass, silhouettes of guards shifted uneasily. Reeves ignored them. You've been in consortium space long? She asked. About 8 months. Contract security, small jobs mostly. I've been detained twice before. Once for laughing during an inspection, once for running in the wrong corridor. Running. They thought I was chasing something. I was exercising, he smirked faintly. Apparently, humans don't run unless it's violence or fear. Reeves made a note on her wrist pad. This isn't about you anymore, Mr. Cade. It's about every human working in consortium sectors. If they're misreading your normal behavior as threat behavior, this problem is systemic. Systemic, he repeated. That's a polite word for stupid. She almost smiled. It's also fixable. He studied her for a moment. You really believe that? If I didn't, I wouldn't be here. The station lighting shifted subtly as the cycle moved toward evening, artificial twilight washing across the metal walls. It gave the scene an odd intimacy. Reeves stood, paced once to the door, then turned back. Walk me through it again, she said. The bar fight, Marcus sighed, rubbing his temple. All right. I was off duty, sitting alone, reading cargo manifests. 4 Kralathi dockhands came in, loud, drunk, territorial. They didn't like that I was there, I smiled. That was the mistake. You smiled to de-escalate, exactly. They saw it as challenge. One shoved me. I tried to leave. They blocked the exit. Another shove, then a swing. After that, I moved on instinct. Instinct meaning training, meaning survival, he said quietly. You don't pick the rules of the fight, only whether you walk away from it. And you stopped when they went down. Of course. I wasn't trying to hurt them, just stop the momentum. Reeves nodded once. That's the key difference the consortium doesn't understand. Humans can switch states fast. Peace to fight, fight to calm without losing control. To most species, that looks like volatility. To us, it's discipline. Marcus tilted his head. So your plan is to teach aliens how to read humans. My plan is to teach them what danger actually looks like, she said. And what it doesn't. From the corridor came a faint mechanical click, the sound of Vethal shifting his weight. Reeves lowered her voice. Instructor Vethal thinks I'm making a mistake. He believes doctrine protects people. What it really protects is misunderstanding. Marcus gave a small, sardonic laugh. He's not wrong to worry. We do look dangerous sometimes, only when we're forced to prove we're not prey. That hung in the air a moment, truth condensed to one sentence. She tapped her pad, pulling up his incident log. You know, your restraint impressed me more than your speed. You avoided lethal force, aimed for disarm and disable, used minimal strikes. That's tactical precision, not rage, he shrugged. I've seen what rage does. Doesn't end well for anyone. Reeves met his eyes. I need your help. This station needs to relearn how to see humans, and I can't do that without someone who's already survived the consequences of their ignorance. He arched a brow. You're recruiting me from inside a cell? I'm offering purpose in exchange for justice. I'll get you cleared today. In return, you help me build a baseline, a real one. He studied her expression, searching for any hint of manipulation. There was none, just conviction, steady and unflinching. Finally, he said, "All right, Commander. But if your plan gets me locked up again, I'm asking for hazard pay." "You'll get coffee," she said. "Unlimited supply." His laugh came easy that time. "Deal." She rose, knocked twice on the door. It slid open immediately, revealing Vethel and 2 armed guards. The instructor's posture was pure tension. "Assessment complete?" he asked. "Yes," Reeves said crisply. "The subject poses no threat." Vethal's mandibles twitched. "Commander, your exposure time was sufficient," she cut in. "He's rational, stable, and under wrongful detention. Prepare release documents. Full exoneration. That exceeds my authority." "Then escalate it," she said. "I'll sign whatever you need. And while you're at it, schedule a briefing for all security and medical staff tomorrow at 800. Vethal's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Purpose?" "Threat assessment recalibration. Consider it mandatory." She stepped into the corridor, motioning for Marcus to follow. The guards hesitated. Reeves's voice cooled. "He's with me." The men stood aside. Marcus crossed the threshold, stretching slightly as though shaking off. "Invisible weight. Feels strange walking out. Without someone aiming a stun baton at me," he said. "Let's keep it that way." They walked together down the long corridor. Other personnel paused to watch, the infamous human now walking freely beside the new commander. Whispers followed like static. "Congratulations," Marcus said under his breath. "You've already made half the station nervous." "That's fine," she replied. "Fear makes people pay attention. Understanding keeps them alive." He glanced sideways. "You always talk like a training manual?" "Only when I mean every word." They reached the commissary. The lighting was warmer here, air tinged with spices from a dozen cuisines. Reeves pointed to the human-compatible section. "Sit, I'll get food and something resembling coffee." He obeyed, sinking into a chair built for human proportions, a luxury after days on a narrow bench. When she returned, she placed a steaming mug before him. The scent alone made his eyes close for a second. "Real?" he asked. "Synth blend, but close enough." He took a sip, exhaled. "That's civilization right there." Reeves settled opposite him. "We're going to document every misunderstanding in your record, every misread action, every flawed assumption. Then we'll use it to retrain this station's personnel. You up for that?" He looked around the commissary, alien faces watching discreetly. Curiosity edged with unease. Then he met her gaze. "If it keeps the next human from ending up in a cell for smiling, I'm in." "Good," she said. "Because this isn't just about a report. It's about rewriting doctrine." Outside the window, the planet turned slowly, sunlight breaking across the curve of its surface. The station's hum returned, steady, alive. For the first time since she'd docked, the silence no longer felt like waiting for disaster. It felt like the pause before change. The training bay had been stripped down to essentials: white walls, reinforced floors, rows of consoles humming quietly in standby. The scent of ozone lingered, a byproduct of recalibrating the holo projectors. Commander Lissa Reeves stood at the center, sleeves rolled to her elbows, waiting as Instructor Vethal scuttled in with the efficient irritation of someone dragged into reform he hadn't approved. "Commander," he said stiffly, "the staff are assembled. May I ask the purpose of this?" "Demonstration?" "To save you about 24 wrongful detentions," she replied. "And to stop every human who blinks wrong from ending up in a holding cell." Vethal's mandibles clicked in mild disapproval. "You assume fault lies in the system rather than the subject. Today," Reeves said, "we're going to test that assumption." The observation barrier shimmered. Behind it, representatives from multiple species filled the gallery. Security officers, medtechs, administrators, all curious and wary. At Reeves's nod, the hologrid activated, bathing the floor in pale blue light. Marcus Cade stepped forward, now in standard-issue duty fatigues instead of a detainee jumpsuit. He looked rested, if not entirely comfortable with the dozen eyes, and 3 multifaceted visors tracking his every movement. Reeves clasped her hands behind her back. "For the record," she said, "Mr. Cade is not here as a subject but as a teaching partner. Today, we establish what normal human behavior looks like. Tomorrow, we talk about actual danger. A murmur rippled through the observation area. Vethal folded 2 sets of arms. Proceed. Reeves turned to Marcus. Start with the basics. Give me a neutral expression. He stood relaxed, shoulders even. Hands at his sides, face calm. Now, a friendly greeting, he smiled lightly. Nodding as if acknowledging a colleague, several alien observers leaned forward. A Quellan officer tapped notes on a pad, clearly intrigued. Reeves gestured toward them. That, she said, is friendliness, not aggression. The baring of teeth in humans often signals warmth or reassurance. Context determines meaning, she turned back to Marcus. Now nervous smile. His posture stiffened subtly, corners of his mouth tight, eyes uncertain. Post-conflict relief, Reeves said next. Marcus exhaled sharply, shoulders dropping. His grin widened just a fraction, tension dissolving into release. To anyone human, the distinction was obvious. To the audience, it was revelation. That, Reeves said, pointing to the image frozen mid-projection, was logged as a predatory display on 3 separate occasions across 2 stations. Same expression, different context. Misread every time. Vethal tapped his claw against his datapad. Commander, it is not practical to memorize subtle emotional variations across species. Agreed, Reeves said. That's why we establish baselines. Learn patterns, not faces. Recognize intent, not assumption. She keyed a command. The hologrid shifted to show Marcus's vitals. Heart rate, breathing, skin conductivity. Resting, she said. The numbers glowed steady. Now jog. Marcus began an easy run along the perimeter. His heart rate climbed swiftly. In seconds, alarms flickered red. See? Reeves said, pausing the display. Your sensors interpret a spike as aggression or pursuit instinct. That's the flaw. Humans evolved as endurance predators. We can elevate output without hostility. A Quellan medic raised a translucent hand. But Commander, your cardiovascular shift is extreme. From baseline 60 to 140, she finished. Perfectly normal. Efficient metabolism. It's what makes us good at survival, not violence. You need to stop flagging biology as intent. Marcus slowed to a walk, breathing steady. The alarm lights faded back to green. Vethal watched quietly. His mandibles no longer clicked. Reeves saw him recalculating, the bureaucrat's version of curiosity. Next, she said. Stress trigger. Marcus nodded, rolling his shoulders. Reeves pressed a key. A training drone hovered down, projecting a holo of a Kralathi officer, the same species that had attacked him. It advanced, posture aggressive, mock weapon raised. Marcus's eyes locked on it, pupils narrowing. His breathing deepened. Stance shifted forward. The room's sensors immediately flared yellow. Threat markers rising. Freeze it, Reeves ordered. The holo paused mid-lunge. Look at him. Controlled posture. Not an attack stance, prepared defense. You'll notice his hands aren't clenched. His shoulders haven't rotated forward. That's containment, not escalation. A low voice from the gallery. Then how do we tell the difference? Simple, Reeves said. When humans are about to fight, everything goes still. Controlled movement, minimal noise. It's not chaos, it's calculation. She gestured to Marcus. Show them. He adjusted slightly, subtle weight shift, gaze sharpening, still as glass. The air changed. Even the holo sensors flickered with proximity alerts. Then he relaxed again, the tension melting off like heat off steel. That, Reeves said quietly, is what danger looks like. It's not loud. It's not smiling. It's the absence of motion. You feel it before you see it. Silence filled the bay. Even Vethal seemed reluctant to breathe. Finally, Reeves turned toward the gallery. You've all been trained to spot hostility by sound and display. Volume, movement, visible anger. For humans, those can be release valves, not precursors to violence. You're measuring the wrong things. The lights flickered as the grid powered down. The holograms dissolved into thin air. Marcus leaned against a railing, catching his breath. Well, he said dryly, that was the most polite interrogation I've had. A few nervous chuckles escaped from the audience. Vethal cleared his throat. Your point is made, Commander. However, recalibrating the system's recognition algorithms will require formal approval. Then we start the process, Reeves said. Meanwhile, No detentions based solely on physiological spikes or nonverbal cues without corroborating threat behavior. That directive exceeds authority granted under Tactical Integration Reform. Section 12, she cut in. I checked before breakfast. He blinked his glossy eyes. You anticipated resistance? I've met bureaucrats before, instructor. Marcus smothered a grin. Told you she's dangerous in her own way. Vethal ignored the remark, tapping notes with meticulous care. You propose establishing a human variance appendix. Exactly, Reeves said. Every human incident we analyze will feed that database. When sensors flag anomalies, the system checks them against verified patterns. Over time, false positives disappear. Vethal regarded her, mandibles shifting in quiet thought. It may work. It will, she said. And it'll save you paperwork. That earned the slightest tilt of his head, possibly the arthropoid version of humor. From the far end of the bay, a sharp tone sounded. Security alert, cargo deck C. The room tensed instantly. Reeves checked her pad. The display showed a human life signature sprinting down a maintenance corridor. Pursuit markers surrounded it. What now? Marcus muttered. Vethal read the report aloud. Human technician detected running towards sealed hatch. Kreshnak crew interpreting as predatory chase. Security en route. Reeves snapped her pad closed. Stop them. Do not engage. Commander, that's an order. She was already moving, stride fast and deliberate. Marcus followed without hesitation. Vethal hesitated, then hurried after them. The corridors of Aetheris 12 blurred past. Pressure doors, color-coded atmosphere zones, startled personnel flattening against walls as the trio passed. Reeves keyed her comm. Deck C, this is Commander Reeves. Hold position. Repeat, hold position. Do not intercept. The reply crackled through static. Subject is accelerating, Commander. We're preparing to subdue. Stand down! They rounded the final corner. Ahead, a human technician in coveralls sprinted toward a closing hatch, arms full of tools. Two massive Kreshnak dockhands loomed, claws flexing, uncertain whether to attack or retreat. Stop! Reeves called. Everyone froze. The human dropped the toolkit and threw himself through the narrowing hatch, barely clearing it before the door sealed. Vethal exhaled sharply. Clearly pursuit behavior. Reeves shook her head. No, look. She pointed at the data readout above the hatch. Maintenance cycle override, 10 seconds remaining. He was trying to save the deck systems from locking mid-repair. He was racing the timer, not hunting prey. The Kreshnak shifted awkwardly, scales dimming in embarrassment. Marcus chuckled under his breath. Context, he said softly. Always context. Reeves looked at Vethal. And that's why your old protocols don't work. The instructor said nothing for a long moment. Then finally he nodded. I will attend your recalibration briefing, Commander. She smiled just slightly. Good. You'll need the front row seat. They stood there as the hum of the station resumed, the tension bleeding away. Reeves glanced at Marcus. Calm, observant, quietly vindicated. For the first time, she felt momentum. Not the chaotic kind born of panic, but the deliberate kind that meant change was finally underway. The incident on Cargo Deck C spread through Aetheris 12 faster than any official bulletin could contain it. By the time Commander Lissa Reeves reached the deck, rumors had already rewritten the truth into a dozen versions, each more dramatic than the last. Some claimed a human had gone feral. Others said a predator had escaped quarantine. None mentioned that the feral human was a maintenance technician trying to beat a lockdown timer. The corridor outside the cargo bay smelled of ionized air and fear. Kreshnak dockhands stood pressed against the bulkhead, their iridescent scales dim with embarrassment. Security officers waited in formation, still tense from the false alarm. Reeves stepped into the center of the chaos, her boots clicking against the deck with sharp precision. Report, she said. Lieutenant Hale, a tall amphibian with translucent skin, approached. Commander, the human ran toward the ceiling hatch carrying unregistered tools. Security interpreted it as predatory pursuit behavior. We activated containment protocols. And by containment, Reeves said, you mean you almost stunned an engineer saving your systems? Hale's throat sac deflated slightly. Yes, ma'am. Reeves turned toward the massive Kreshnak workers who had initiated the alert. Who authorized the call? One raised a claw hesitantly. I did, Commander. He moved fast, low posture, eyes fixed. That means attack for us. For us, she repeated softly. But not for him. Marcus Cade arrived seconds later, out of breath from sprinting the distance. He looked from the sealed hatch to the crowd and shook his head. Someone tell me you didn't shoot at him. No one fired, Reeves said, then nodded toward the hatch's status display. Systems secured, airlock stabilized. He got there in time. Marcus exhaled. Then he just saved you a week of maintenance downtime. Vethal arrived last, looking both relieved and mortified. His carapace was dusted with flecks of coolant residue. He must have come straight from the monitoring station. Commander, I reviewed the logs on the way here. The human triggered a red flag movement profile. High-speed forward vector, target fixation, no verbal communication. Reeves folded her arms. Because he was sprinting against a 10-second shutdown sequence. What's his name? Technician Arande, Vethal replied. Civilian contractor, 3 months on assignment. Where is he now? Inside the sealed compartment completing repairs. Reeves nodded toward the observation window overlooking the cargo bay. Through it, Aaron knelt beside a maintenance conduit, hands moving with calm precision as if the chaos outside didn't exist. Open comm channel, she ordered. A moment later, Aaron's voice crackled through the speaker. Commander, everything's stable now. Pressure equalized. Sorry for the scare. Reeves smiled faintly. Apology accepted. Next time, alert control before you sprint through a restricted zone. Understood, ma'am. I didn't think I'd make it if I stopped to explain. That's exactly the point, she said. You made the right call. We just need everyone else to learn what that looks like. She cut the channel and turned back to the crowd. This, she gestured toward the sealed hatch, is the textbook example of what happens when you apply one species' instincts to another's behavior. Every second you misinterpret context, you waste energy, resources, and trust. From this moment forward, no one on this station uses the term predatory posture without evidence of actual aggression. Vethal shifted uneasily. Commander, may I suggest we formalize this? One isolated correction will not change procedural doctrine. Reeves met his gaze. You're right. Which is why we're not leaving this deck until we do. She tapped her wrist pad. Initiate training record capture. File name, Cargo Deck C Incident Review. Marcus, you're with me. Marcus straightened. I figured. They stepped onto the observation platform above the bay. The holographic projectors flickered to life, recreating the event from surveillance feeds. Three-dimensional, immersive, accurate to the millisecond. Play from initial alert, Reeves said. The scene unfolded in glowing light. Aaron running down the corridor. The Kreshnak shouting, security-raising weapons. Reeves slowed the playback to half speed, highlighting body angles, limb movement, heart rate telemetry. Notice his hands, she said. Palms open, carrying tools, not fists. Shoulders lowered for speed, not aggression. Breathing controlled, not panicked. Every marker of focused intent, not violence. Marcus added, also note the lack of vocalization. Humans yell when we want help or when we're angry. When we're working under pressure, we go silent. It's concentration, not threat. A junior medic raised a hand. Then what should we log this under? Reeves answered, task-focused urgency. Create a new category. Vethal entered notes rapidly, mandibles moving in rhythm. Commander, your analysis will require modification of the automated response algorithms. Then modify them, she said. We can't train trust if the system itself is biased. Marcus leaned closer to the display. There, freeze frame. Look at the Kreshnak body language. They interpret forward motion as challenge because they evolved in dense jungles. Approach equals territorial conflict. We evolved on open ground. Approach means closing distance to act. Same motion, opposite meaning, Reeves nodded. Exactly. Cross-species interpretation requires translation, not reflex. The room fell quiet as the playback ended. The truth was plain now, illuminated in holographic evidence. No one had attacked anyone. They had simply misunderstood what they saw. Reeves faced the gathered staff. This is what reform looks like. Not memos, not committees, observation, correction, documentation. You record the mistake, you learn, you move forward. Vethal's tone softened. You make it sound simple. It is, she said. Understanding usually is. We just complicate it to feel safe. A chime interrupted. Priority transmission from station administration. Reeves accepted the call. The administrator's hologram flickered above the console. Expression unreadable. Commander Reeves, the voice said. We've received multiple reports of unauthorized use of training facilities and deviation from standard security protocol. I'm aware, she said evenly. The deviation prevented a false assault charge and potential injury to a human technician. I'll forward documentation within the hour. The hologram frowned. Your reform initiative lacks formal approval. The tribunal may view this as procedural insubordination. Reeves didn't blink. Then the tribunal can file it under competence. I'll brief them myself. The hologram hesitated, then vanished. Marcus let out a low whistle. You're collecting enemies fast. Progress has a body count, she replied dryly. Luckily, so does bureaucracy, and it's paperwork, not people. She turned back to the crew. Dismissed. I want full reports by shift end, including corrections to your behavioral algorithms. Instructor Vethal, stay. The others filed out, murmuring among themselves. Vethal remained, posture thoughtful. I misjudged this situation, he admitted quietly. Old doctrine teaches us to act first, question later. You've proven observation is not weakness. Reeves nodded. Observation is preparation. We don't prevent violence by fearing it. We prevent it by understanding what leads to it. He inclined his head. Then allow me to assist. If we are to revise training, we must gather comparative data. Every recorded human incident across consortium space. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. As they left the deck, Marcus fell into step beside her. You realize you just started a revolution, right? Half the station's going to see you as a hero. The other half's going to see you as a threat. I don't need them to like me, she said. I need them to think before they shoot. They passed a viewport overlooking the planet below, clouds swirling like silver paint. The reflection of the station lights framed their silhouettes in the glass. One human commander, one reluctant insectoid ally, one weary contractor turned witness. 3 people walking out of a corridor that had nearly become a battlefield over a misunderstanding. Marcus broke the silence. What's next? Tribunal, she said. They want answers. We'll give them proof, he smirked. And coffee? Plenty. You're going to need it. Vethal glanced between them. Commander, if the tribunal refuses authorization, then we make it public, Reeves said, voice firm. No one silences data. Not anymore. The hum of the corridor seemed louder now, steadier. The silence that had once carried fear was shifting, becoming awareness, the first tremor of understanding. For the first time since she'd arrived, Reeves felt the station leaning toward change, not willingly, not easily, but undeniably. The tribunal chamber of Aetheris 12 was designed to intimidate. An amphitheater of polished alloy and pale blue light, every sound swallowed by the walls until voices felt too small to matter. Commander Lissa Reeves walked in first, her boots echoing deliberately. She refused to sound small. Behind her came Marcus Cade, posture straight but cautious, and Instructor Vethal, carrying a stack of data pads like a shield. Rows of representatives filled the ascending tiers. Kreshnak, Quelin, Harathi, Krolathi, and half a dozen other species, each radiating some variation of curiosity or judgment. At the center dais sat Administrator Selith, a long-limbed avian whose plumage rippled with faint irritation. Commander Reeves, Selith began, this hearing convenes to address your deviation from established protocol, unauthorized use of restricted training systems, and interference in a live security response. You may present your defense. Reeves clasped her hands behind her back. My defense is the outcome, Administrator. No casualties, no property damage. One near incident turned into a successful case study. I call that effective leadership. Murmurs rose among the counselors. The Administrator's feathers bristled slightly. You circumvented chain of command. I prevented a wrongful stun charge against a human technician, she countered. A man who was saving your station's life support system when security nearly paralyzed him for running. Selith's gaze sharpened. Your methods were unorthodox. So are humans, Reeves said simply. That's the point. A ripple of low conversation spread across the chamber. Vethal leaned close to her shoulder and whispered, You may wish to moderate your tone. I'm not here to moderate, she said under her breath. I'm here to clarify. The administrator rapped the dais. Commander, the tribunal will hear evidence, not rhetoric. Reeves nodded once to Marcus. He stepped forward, carrying a small hollow projector. With a touch, the lights dimmed, and the air shimmered with color. The footage from Cargo Deck C filled the room in perfect clarity. Aaron Day sprinting down the corridor. The Kreshnak shouting, security lifting their weapons. Then the freeze frame. Aaron leaping through the hatch as the system sealed. This is what you called a threat, Reeves said. What you almost punished as aggression. The display rotated, highlighting Aaron's open hands, the toolkit visible in one frame. Every indicator of a human in task focus. No weapon drawn, no hostile posture. Seleth tilted their head, and yet the sensor algorithms flagged it as pursuit behavior. Exactly, Reeves replied. Because the algorithms were written by non-humans who interpreted forward momentum as aggression instead of intent. You built a security net that doesn't understand half the species it protects. Vethal stepped forward, mandibles clicking once before he spoke. The commander's analysis is correct. I have reviewed her methodology. The fault lies not in the personnel, but in the framework. It misreads biology as motive. The admission caused a visible stir. Reeves allowed the silence to deepen before continuing. 47% of humans in consortium space have at least one behavioral flag, she said. That's almost half our population labeled unstable or dangerous based on misinterpreted actions. Heart rate spikes, smiles, laughter, caffeine intake. None of those things correlate to aggression. They correlate to being alive. Seleth's feathers twitched. You are implying institutional failure. I'm not implying it, she said. I'm documenting it. Marcus spoke next, voice calm but edged. I was detained for defending myself in a fight I tried to avoid. I spent 72 hours in isolation because my body reacted to adrenaline the way it's supposed to. Every report in my file called me volatile. The only thing I was guilty of was being human in a place that doesn't know what human means. He paused, letting the words settle. You don't have a violence problem, Administrator. You have an understanding problem. The quiet that followed felt heavier than anger. Reeves could sense the tribunal recalculating. Some faces softened, others hardened. Change always divided the room. Seleth finally spoke. Commander Reeves, you are asking us to rewrite standing security doctrine. That is not a small request. It's smaller than repairing the trust you're breaking every time a human is wrongly detained, she replied. The administrator's eyes narrowed. You believe your solution, the so-called recalibration, will eliminate these misunderstandings. It will start the process, she said. We'll build a human behavioral baseline, verified physiological ranges, emotional markers, and contextual cues. The algorithms will update automatically. Every incident will refine the data until accuracy replaces assumption. Seleth turned to Vethal. And you endorse this proposal? Vethal inclined his head. I do. I opposed it initially. Then I saw it work. I witnessed a human save this station while we nearly attacked him for doing so. That cannot continue. The administrator looked back to Reeves. Suppose we agree. What prevents other species from demanding similar treatment? Nothing, Reeves said. And that's the strength of it. The same system can be adapted for everyone. Cross-species integration based on evidence, not fear. A long silence followed. Reeves stood motionless, letting the moment breathe. Then, one of the Kreshnak counselors, a heavy-scaled officer with a scarred jaw, spoke for the first time. I was one of those who misread the technician, he said. I saw his run as a charge. I almost struck him. When he explained later, he said, I was trying to help. I believe him. The commander's framework may spare us from our own ignorance. Others murmured in agreement. The tide shifted visibly. Seleth leaned back in their chair. Your conviction is persuasive. However, there remains the issue of authorization. The tribunal cannot approve without oversight confirmation. Then I'll demonstrate, Reeves said. Here, now. She gestured for Marcus to stand beside her. The gallery leaned forward as she addressed him. Mr. Cade, demonstrate a relaxed state. He complied, weight balanced. Expression calm, hands loose. Now nervous tension. He shifted slightly. tightening his jaw, shoulders drawn inward, and controlled aggression. Marcus straightened, gaze sharpening, still as stone. The energy in the room changed instantly. Even those unfamiliar with human cues felt it. "Now relief," Reeves said. He exhaled, grin spreading, soft, genuine, harmless. The tension drained. She turned to the tribunal. 4 states. 4 meanings. Your current system flags all of them as the same thing. Threat. That's your problem. For once, Seelith said nothing. The evidence spoke too loudly. Reeves faced the gathered assembly. You don't have to like humans. You just have to understand them. Because misunderstanding us wastes time, endangers lives, and undermines the very cooperation this consortium was built on. A pause. Then quietly, Vethal said, "Motion to approve the recalibration initiative under Commander Reeves's supervision." Several hands, claws, tendrils, appendages, rose in agreement. One by one, the lights along the voting console turned green. Seleth regarded the display, feathers smoothing reluctantly. The motion passes for a 30-day provisional implementation. You will submit weekly progress reports and demonstrate measurable reduction in false threat assessments. Reeves inclined her head. Understood. Additionally, Seleth continued, you will present a live training seminar to all security and medical divisions at dawn tomorrow. Success there will determine permanence. Reeves smiled faintly. Then I'd better start rehearsing. As the tribunal adjourned, Marcus let out a slow breath. That went better than I expected. You underestimate the power of evidence, she said. Or coffee, he muttered. They just saw humans stay calm through cross-examination. That's a miracle on its own. Vethal joined them near the exit, posture no longer defensive but contemplative. Commander, I admit, when you arrived I believed your methods reckless. Now I find myself reconsidering. That's how reform starts, instructor, she said. Not with orders, just with reconsideration. He regarded her quietly. You know this will make you unpopular. I didn't come here to be popular, she said. I came here to be right. They left the chamber together, the hallway echoing with low conversation from the dispersing counselors. For the first time since docking at Aetheris 12, Reeves felt momentum moving with her, instead of against her. At the corridor's end, Marcus fell into step beside her. So tomorrow you lecture 100 alien officers about what a human smile means. Nervous? She grinned. Terrified. Which ironically they'll interpret as calm, he chuckled. Then we're making progress already. As they passed a viewport, the distant planet rotated beneath them, sunlight glinting off oceans that no one on the station would ever touch. Reeves watched it a moment, then said quietly, Tomorrow we prove understanding isn't weakness, it's strength. Marcus lifted his cup in salute. To understanding, she nodded once. To accuracy. The auditorium of Aetheris 12 could hold 200 personnel, but the weight inside that room felt larger than that, like an entire system deciding what it wanted to become. Rows of security officers, medical evaluators, and administrative staff filled the seats, representing 43 species. Some came curious, some defiant, some terrified of being told their training was wrong. Commander Lyssa Reeves stood at the podium, the same place where so many had lectured about regulation and compliance. She didn't have a speech prepared. She had data and proof. The overhead lights dimmed as the holoprojector came alive, casting a soft shimmer over the crowd. Marcus Cade sat beside the control table, a cup of coffee balanced carefully on the edge. The smell alone drew several uneasy glances. Reeves began quietly. When I arrived here, I was told humans were dangerous. I've since decided to agree, with a correction. She paused, letting the silence stretch. We're dangerous to assumptions. The line earned a few murmurs, some even chuckles, which was better than the wall of silence she'd expected. This seminar isn't about blame, she continued. It's about calibration, seeing clearly instead of reacting blindly. She signaled Marcus. The first holographic feed appeared, a side-by-side comparison of 3 human faces. The same person, smiling, nervous, relieved. To human eyes, the distinctions were obvious. To the rest of the room, they looked identical. Let's start simple, Reeves said. To humans, these are 3 entirely different emotions. Greeting, uncertainty, and survival relief. You've been reading them as one thing, threat. A Kreshnok officer raised a claw. The teeth exposure. How do we differentiate friendly from aggressive? Context, she replied. Aggression shows tension everywhere. Shoulders, eyes, hands. Friendliness is relaxed. You already read those cues in your own species. Apply the same logic to ours, she advanced the presentation. The next clip showed Marcus jogging on a training treadmill, heart rate climbing from 60 to 140. A red threat warning flashed in the original system overlay. Reeves froze the feed. Your sensors call this predatory acceleration. I call it cardio. Laughter rippled faintly through the room. Even Vethal, seated in the front row, allowed his mandibles to curve upward in what might have been amusement. Humans evolved for endurance, she continued. Our bodies are meant to push hard, recover fast, and do it again. That's not aggression, that's efficiency. Treating it as danger wastes time and damages trust. Marcus leaned into the mic. It also makes working out awkward when you're surrounded by stun guns. A few chuckles broke the tension. Reeves nodded toward him. Mr. Cade here has graciously volunteered to demonstrate the baseline states we've been mislabeling. Watch closely. Marcus stood, setting his coffee down. All right. Step 1, neutral. He stood easy. Hands loose, posture open. Step 2, alert. Not hostile. He straightened, eyes narrowing slightly. Muscles engaged but restrained. Step 3, pre-combat. His entire presence shifted. Stillness settled over him like gravity. The change was quiet but absolute. The room tensed instinctively. Reeves let the silence hang. That's what you should worry about, she said softly. Stillness, focus, absence of movement. That's when a human has decided there's no more room for negotiation. Then Marcus exhaled, shoulders relaxing, energy dissolving. The air itself seemed to release its breath. And that, Reeves added, is resolution. Calm after action. Notice how it looks like peace, not pleasure. A Quellan medic raised a limb. Our reports noted post-conflict laughter as abnormal. You disagree? Completely, Reeves said. Humans laugh to survive adrenaline. It's our release valve. It's not joy at harm. It's relief at survival. She played a short clip of Marcus during the bar fight aftermath. Shaking, smiling, then laughing as the last of his fear drained away. That sound, she said, is the body saying I lived. Misread it, and you punish self-control instead of rewarding it. The crowd quieted. The message was sinking in now, not as theory, but as something tangible. Reeves moved to the next slide. Statistics, graphs, documentation. In the last 8 months, 47% of humans in consortium space were flagged for concerning behavior. After revising parameters and reviewing incident files, 72% of those flags are now reclassified as normal responses. Vethal rose slightly, meaning nearly 3/4 of all threat alerts were false positives. Exactly, Reeves confirmed. And every false positive costs resources, manpower, time, morale. We're bleeding efficiency because we're afraid of misunderstanding. The administrator's representatives, seated near the back, exchanged low whispers. Reeves ignored them. She switched to the final feed, Cargo Deck C. The replay showed technician Aaron Day sprinting toward the hatch. The audience watched the near incident unfold again. But this time, annotated overlays explained each motion. Tool grip, breathing pattern, eye focus, acceleration vector. This was labeled pursuit aggression, Reeves narrated. In truth, it was problem-solving urgency. He ran to fix a malfunction. The old protocol would have stunned him. The new framework recognizes intent. The video ended on the technician's calm smile once the system stabilized. Reeves faced the audience again. This is why recalibration matters. Because one wrong interpretation can turn cooperation into conflict. Seelith, the administrator, stood slowly from the back of the room. The crowd parted instinctively. Commander Reeves, they said, your presentation is thorough, but data rarely changes behavior. Fear is faster than logic. How will you correct that? Reeves met the question head-on. By education and repetition. Every training simulation from this day forward includes a human baseline module. And not just for humans, every species will submit theirs. We learn from each other. Seelith studied her, feathers shifting. You're proposing a universal empathy curriculum disguised as tactical training. She smiled slightly. If that's what it takes. A low hum of conversation spread through the room, approval mixed with disbelief. Reeves raised her voice just enough to reclaim the moment. "Understanding isn't weakness," she said. "It's prevention. We've spent too long confusing discomfort with danger. That stops now." Applause started softly, first from the human contractors, then spreading outward. Even a few Kreshnak thumped their tails against the floor, the closest they came to clapping. Seleth waited until the noise faded. "Commander Reeves, the tribunal will review your initiative after the 30-day trial. For now, the recalibration program stands. You have temporary authorization to oversee cross-species behavioral alignment." Reeves inclined her head. "Then let's make it permanent." As the audience dispersed, the room buzzed with cautious optimism. Officers lingered by the display, discussing posture markers and laughter cues. The word dangerous no longer hung in the air. It had been replaced by curious. Marcus joined her at the podium, sipping his now lukewarm coffee. "Well, you did it. Half the galaxy just learned we're not psychotic." "Give it a week," she said dryly. "Old habits die slower than rumors." Vethal approached next, datapads in all 4 hands. "Commander, initial feedback is positive. Several officers have requested to adapt the module for their own species." Reeves looked genuinely pleased. "Good. If this turns into a consortium-wide rewrite, maybe we'll finally start acting like allies instead of suspects." Marcus chuckled. "That would ruin half the gossip networks." She shot him a look. "Then they'll have to find new stories." Vethal's mandibles clicked softly. "Commander, may I ask, what made you fight this so fiercely?" Most officers would have settled for protocol review. Reeves considered that. "Because misunderstanding kills slower than violence, but it kills just the same. I've seen it on too many worlds." The instructor inclined his head. "Then you've given us something better than doctrine. You've given us reason." He left them to the lingering hum of the hall. Marcus leaned against the console, watching the crew pack up. "So what now?" Reeves looked toward the viewport, where the planet turned below, a calm sphere wrapped in sunlight. "Now we make sure this sticks. Every station, every species. No more guessing what someone means when they smile." He grinned. "That's optimistic. Necessary," she corrected. They stood in companionable silence for a moment. Through the window, a shuttle drifted into the void, carrying a new set of trainees and, with them, new expectations. Reeves picked up Marcus's cup, raised it slightly in salute. "To clarity," he returned the gesture. "To not being arrested for jogging." She laughed, quiet, real, human. Across the auditorium, several alien technicians turned at the sound, but this time, no one flinched. They just listened, curious, learning what it meant.